It was from Mama call about SVTV Africa. So them say get to life story for some time in call to get to for Kasani and the decided say yeah there's teachings we be basana be more so many questions being bisa na ekoye we get to recorded no yeah the teachings say ba enya nwie ye every week bia na be drop it back se na be ya also no o hwa men hwe ne kwa we udi sua bibi wa wo fie wa opese ososo o why dwen se opese ko wura sa de we mu no so no obehu se na esitie aha se na esi say nipa e drug addict so person run into drugs the way be yo addiction asem na kan it is o hwe sa de we na say too for se na be ya untimi mfa ho nkohwe sa de we mu amoso mu wo mu dada no so no e the teachings we ba se na be boa wa obetimi ahwe kwan so a obetimi live obe jai sa anyama we nti na yede sa teachings we ba wo SVTV Africa so aha nti de bia no ye was Steven Sanke or the side we be every week bia ye one video be what questions are drop it e wan say o say na be the following week or ba or the answers ni ade ne be ba ye can about addiction what you say aha nti we ni yede bra SVTV Africa say na munim no rehab centers no so ye try any House of St Francis ye de nkofo 2 ko ho kakra say na mesika na mon support ye foundation mon support ye mon donating kakra ye wonkofo bebre wo ha omo queue ma say ne omko babisa ho ne boarding kakra 7,000 plus ni pa ba ko enti wo hwe wo di we ba wo di kakra ba na we di kakra ba 10 cedi 5 cedi 50 cedis 100,000 ne kosa ne agada ni nyina ne de obi kosa ne change lives enti ne catch us SVTV Africa Foundation let's help together no simple nti mo man bobo ye ho ye da ma se de bia no mo gi ye di am support brand SVTV Africa meda aseda shipping limited ase mo UK nyina feel am de bram one time we no size so what I say from aseda shipping limited o person the boxes ni o nyama bagana aseda shipping limited from numbers ni o screen so catch am so advert we will DJ nyame o SVTV Africa say yes. Oh, from some more discount. Yeah, I put we can say, Mother, Matim advert in here, me feeling mama me discount. How the from na catch on say yes, uti advert in oh boxes bi or ho nyame bi o person the bag and che be borders. Aha, meaning say boxes be back town. So what you say? Enti oh sisi ano do nyama ne gu container ma before be borders no next man na me adoma pa na on sa kan wa de so what you say we ba na obi bia at the house set fresh shipping limited e wo numbers no so e fam DJ nyame ene ye ni Sanke Steven Sanke ba be din komo ba be kire ye about concerning about addiction last week or the big bread ene or the biswa bread nti muma enti Steven Sanke or your addiction professional and counselor Steven Sanke muma enti in the other brain.
Welcome to this episode's edition of Drug Addiction Education. Last time I share, we talked about so many things. We talked about what a drug was. We even talked about what drug addiction in air. Am I sound so to us to say, how do you become addicted? Like I said, only so starting and they are now why you're addicted. You see, you move from stage to stage before you get to the point of what addiction. And I sank can same P as with regards to what adrenaline yari bini in your manoma be. Nemo mende, we want to solely focus on what causes of addiction. Causes of addiction, and your ma, itumi ma obi, addicted to a substance. Now let's start. The first thing I would like us to talk about is heredity. We have heard people talk about heredity. Nichini kameka saying, bibia se oba o pass it on to obano. I can for Rebecca said, okoto and wanoma into your koto. Then I'll be koto. There's no way you are going to give birth to what a bed. Exactly. What we mean by that is that you are likely to have a problem with addiction when in your family there's someone who already has the history of addiction inside. In your family, let's say your father is a drug addict, you are 10 times likely, or you are likely just to also become an addict. Into bu wa who say ebusiano yen kan say akoisafo ewomu omo no mensa na ne maame bia na ne papa bia na bibi eno mensa wo sa akwa na wo sa ebusiano no you are likely to become addicted because so wonya do nsa koso insane mu a wo mogemu da into so mo anakpa amount problems no. If you want to make this more serious, let us even take the example of Bible Munsem. Offer example of Abraham or Bible Numu. Abraham on Sarah, they struggled with what? Childbirth. What happened? Or Barry Ansana Nyame finally Emma Sarah Eba. Or when about Isaac and so Isaac and Rebecca, it was the same problem. Rebecca also struggled to have a child. Or called down crying to Jacob. Jacob ne Rachel, the same problem. So if you look at these things, you are likely to call them what? Generational curses. Generational curses, any a spiritual context, no. But in English or in the science context, we call it heredity. And these are some of the reasons why a person is likely what? To be addicted. So what you know I say? This is the first cause. Now there's another cause we call the biological factors. In the adolescent age, biological cause age. Now the adolescent is likely to become easily addicted because the adolescent brain, no, teenage who are quite away me fan say 18 ni mo kono na adwini mu no enyin to say adult brain, no. The adolescent brain, no, enye capable of making certain decisions and enye capable of planning. Into go say o plan wo ababo utumi dwin say okay ma me first ka win to her ma me fa win to na me ni say adolescent brain, no, is not capable of doing certain things like that. Into go say adolescent, no, is very likely to become what? Addicted because na adwini mu enye immature well enough. There's a difference between that brain and the adult brain. Apart from also, no, we always try to educate the adolescent because one way I'll be to me adolescent, no, from getting into drugs, no, is to educate these adolescents. So as much as possible, BBT says yeah, is meant to expose a lot of information to some adolescents, no, or every adolescent. Sometimes you go into the school, secondary schools and all that to try to talk to students. No, why? Because we feel that the more we expose the dangers of drugs near to them, no, they are likely to stay away from it. But that in itself is not a guarantee. Why? Because I've already said, adolescent brain nankasa, you're full of experimental nature, be a pair experience, a pair be ensure that you're fully mature to the point to me making certain life decisions correct and as a certain planning correct. Into Oka answer now training, any guarantee say Oka training we are or befa. But ours is what to continue to educate these adolescent boys and girls to understand the dangers that they face if they go into what? Addiction. Now another thing is sex, whether male or female. Now last week or the last time we talked about the fact say Obabi and now Obema be to me started so using drugs as a result of what? Emotional disorder be. Now offer Bema now find ma and men are less likely to get addicted to certain psychoactive drugs like antidepressants and anti-anxiety drugs, no. Anyway, and do now or depression and I say maybe mood at title. Doctor to me prescribe a dobi ma offer a ma mood, no, I get it better. Now women are likely to be addicted to substance, no, more than men because of the emotional nature of women. And then we have other drugs like alcohol, for example. And men are more capable of becoming addicted to alcohol than women because of the nature of drug and also. And what I'm saying is that man in Burma reacts differently to certain substances. Offer cocaine we are in Burma are likely to use cocaine and we more. Well, you now on some occasions we say ma you see. No remember there we are likely to use alcohol, we cocaine but a man will sometimes easily get addicted to what? Antidepressant or anti-anxiety medications. Now let us move away from biological factors and let us look at environmental or social. Now, make I say, in our last video, I talked about certain things being internal and some being external. Make I say, we'll talk about the internal ones that has to do with emotional, but let's just talk about the external. Now, people can grow up in very bad homes. When I say bad homes, I mean that homes be audua if be auduma ntokwa nkwa na akwetimu na ndi a ntokwa ochina ntokwa maybe na papa no kra enso enum nsa ebu ne yire ana vice versa oba no mum na enum nsa bebu ne kunu. All these things play a very serious role on the life of this young child. Inti sa akwa no onyi no or stressor your friend environmental stressor be a etit no maybe too premature exposure to violence be ne nyoma be abuse be a wofie. All these things, no, prepare Kwano to easily become addicted because when I start me fans were afraid because too much pressure. I'm a Kwano, and now peer pressure being a bit muna on also or fire already. Now if you problems no dorsal into status of fast syndrome, it is meant to what? To help that child forget about the pain. So you understand what I mean? So home is one of these environmental factors that can cause us to be addicted to what? A substance. Now, another thing was availability of drugs in our homes. Take it as a culture, in a cultural context. Oba Ghana have, for example, If you be obe room kakra na maybe papa no nom nsa. Me kai say yesu anu sa no na ye my bottles nketwa bi. Utwe mane afro say kwaku bra. Jiwe na koto apetishi wa hama me. If you be wa be kwa ubi e fridge no na nsa nko a nsa we drink we aye fie ni mu ma. Akwa na wo sa efie we mu no. Wa benyi anase onyi eti ase say it is okay. After all, it's always in the house, everyone is doing it, everyone can drink it, so why not? Now that availability of the drug or the alcohol in the home makes it more easier or a breeding ground for that child to be addicted to that alcohol. You understand what I'm saying? Or there could even be prescription drugs. A home where there are lots of prescription drugs around. Maybe wafa no eboano. Next minute, the mama say, oh, kwafawe, now wafa. Before you realize that child grows up to think that it is okay for me to always be taking these drugs when I'm in this mood or this state. You understand what I'm talking about? Good. Now there's also peer pressure. Peer pressure is the most common thing that we all know as a cause of drug addiction. Now peer pressure is just the fact that what we all want to fit in a certain social group. As a human being, we are not islands. You say no man is an island, meboa. So it is difficult for one to say that me, I do not want to relate to any human being. You are very, 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 very likely to what engage yourself with a certain social group. Now, peer pressure is one of the leading causes of drug addiction. This peer pressure does not only have to do, like I mentioned in my first video, that it doesn't really have to do with just the group of friends. Sometimes we learn things from our peers, even on TV. You see people doing it on TV and then what we pick it up as a way of influence. Now let me also quickly add this. When we say peer pressure, do not limit it. These are what? Old issues that have always been there. Let me take it back to biblical times. The story of Akwawe, John the Baptist, King Herod. What happened? John the Baptist was supposed to be in prison. King Herod, and then the banner, omoya party na the banner sorry, and what happened? The banner say, and then couldn't say, ask me for anything and I'll give you. Or can the banner say, I want the head of John the Baptist. Or you could realize that immediately John the Baptist didn't want to, King Herod didn't want to do it. But because he had said it in the presence of other kings, what happened? He was compelled to give his daughter the head of John the Baptist. And when you peer pressure now. So when we talk about peer pressure, do not underestimate the effect of peer pressure on every human being. Sometimes we will be in Nante, we need a bobra together all the time. One day, attitude, how does that even feel? And so you can imagine that this peer pressure issue on adolescents is a big deal. Sometimes we go to school, we do not fit in the groups that we find ourselves. And so we are compelled to do what these people in the group do. And so by that, we end up becoming what? Addicted to a drug. Now let us also look at social stresses like abuse, violence. People have been abused whilst growing up. Whilst growing up, they have been sexually abused. Some people have been exposed to violence very early, and some people have been traumatized by their childhood. Ghana, and even not only Ghana, a lot of other places in the world, you realize, sometimes you find a father sexually abusing a child. Some of these kids, when they are growing up, grow up with so much trauma. Into only when you a drobia maybe when you alcohol beer or the na drink so onya say drone or anything or befasa because I drink a one so no a dorsum on tiase. But these social stresses affect whoever is involved. And young kwadamkwa and penny for maybe divorce. Maybe other forms of abuse, even marriage, there are a lot of abuses that go on. These are factors that could lead to people getting themselves into drug addiction. Now, having said all of this, let me finally add something that is very important to my heart. And this is what? Behavior and emotions. Behavior and emotions. This is the part I really like to talk about. Now, the ubisa obi, why do you use marijuana? Adenaoshi. And you realize that normally yenya asembia enka nchiro papa bia ye be ya no ya ne betimi aka ne say oh eya na my board me ni hwe ya ntia ana me wini lotto nti me wini lotto nti na me pese me ni gime ho chese me nim say na me ni megime age mano mensa no ana obi say me ho I've lost a family member. Now all of these things that I'm talking about are emotions. It means what? The underlying factor behind why we all go to the use or go back to the use of a substance is because of our inability to deal with our emotions. Simple, oh, but it's not that simple. Emotions is what causes all of us to want to take drugs. Sometimes we take the drug to run away from an emotion. At other times, we take the drug to run to a particular emotion. Take, for example, alcohol. Alcohol is a depressant. We have always thought that alcohol is a stimulant. No, alcohol is a depressant. Me copy area being a new environment. Me feel one community, another community. Me do hono, and now maybe area me call town. Me call town. Me say no, I don't really fit so well in this area. My bored, my lonely. For me to what depress or suppress that emotion, my na baby and I me num be anywhere and then my boredom has been what suppressed, and it has led to me to feel very good. Me feeling good. And tomorrow when I'm bored again, what do? I go back to the beer. You understand what I'm saying? Into pubs, beer or use drugs. Beer, why do you use the drugs? Simple question. Why do you smoke? Why do you drink? Yeah, in Nyanya's assembly and can't Sebe. Assembly back and say, oh, I feel good. Did they make I feel good? Oh, sometimes I won't take forget. Oh, sometimes it be saying I don't get anything to do. All of these are what we call the emotional build-ups. Because of our inability to deal with these emotions, our maladaptive behaviors, we cannot adjust ourselves to certain emotional changes. We resort to heavy use of drugs. You understand what I'm saying? Once there are people who do not drink or smoke. What do? When they are bored, they find a way to engage themselves in other activities. When they are sad, which is a normal human emotion, they find themselves in certain activities to help them forgo that emotion or gradually deal with that emotion. We don't know how to do that. Once there's an emotion or a negative emotion we do not like, we have to immediately resort to the use of what? Drugs. So this is basically what we are talking about today, the causes of what? Drug addiction. I have listed biological factors, environmental factors, and social stresses, and finally what? Emotions. Emotions, like I've said, what is the underlying reason why we all use what? Drugs. Obi, you see drugs, alcohol, because of what? To mean switching between emotions, and to deal with the emotions, we resort to what? Using of drugs. So thank you very much for being part of today's episodes. See you another time. Thank you.
Hi, yabenda Steven Sanke say all these teachings we bring. At least you should be a film. Send a beya, yes, you beya. It's between you two and ammonia, dear. Send a beya could run to addiction, money, dear. Obi person near Rema. Says you the beya or body in the beya. Yeah, the more be bass and I'm a kind of platform we say SVTV Africa. Send a motion. Monko so na support say obi and I will be into Saturday we must send video we man send a beya on so betimi sua sanyama we bi obi oye addict betimi sua bi film monko so na mo support SVTV Africa Foundation mun donate na mo support yan kakra bibi kakra be count sanyama ehia wo bibia na wato kakra my mobile money na wasene amaye Western Union na wasene amaye de obesene bi organa ha o frɛ ya bibi kakra bi kra na e beje na so ye dey support because you more charity works e dey ba and then you can say let's help together. My number obetimi afre 0244 790902. Obetimi WhatsApp me, so just WhatsApp me. WhatsApp me say oh DJ Nyame yeah SVT we share program say na on here so supporting and say yeah MTN mobile money number no 0240677898. E go screen so any MTN mobile money number. But 0244 no dey Vodafone. And no frame ya no nye we. So be so send Vodafone so obetimi aseni abre. In the America no ebeda ase da shipping limited ase omo UK nyina omo keli baby everywhere ase da shipping limited from CC WhatsApp omo dey for updates ni bi omo pak WhatsApp omo obese all the boxes bag Ghana door to door delivery number 1 and tisa ma contact dey okọ fire dey bia make say obetena Ghana sa container na matter the time return call back that shipping line no shipping for no forget omo ase da shipping limited omo ni size from mom disappoint mom update the town container ba be do ni nyina o meyi bibia no o me kire bibia so that shipping limited from CC ya beda Steven Sanke as say de bia no nyam no de teaches we bre wo SVTV Africa so monko so na mon support here makramo